Hey everyone, Irit here with a new video, and today I have an art journaling tutorial. I'm really trying to work on videos that are, I guess, more educational, I want to say. I don't mean it in a super fancy way, just instead of like journal with me videos, which I absolutely love making, but I want to try and do videos that are more helpful to you in explaining my process better, breaking it down, and kind of sharing with you what works for me and what I do to create art journal pages that I love. So I hope you will enjoy this video. Please, if you enjoy it, then give it a like and subscribe and ring the notification bell. All these things are free and they really help this channel and help me reach more people. So yeah, let's get right to it.
We're going to start with the background, and I want to say, of course, there's no one right way of making an art journal. There are no rules in art, but certain things I find really work. And also sometimes if I am not in my most creative arty mode, I do find it easier to kind of rely on certain principles or crutches or, you know, kind of my go-to things. And I'm going to share some of them with you today, and I'm trying to make this one in particular quite simple, and then we'll see how we do in future videos. But I really wanted this to be simple and easy to follow and not intimidating. So let's get started. The background here, you'll see I am making this super simple kind of a dotty watercolor background, and I will list all the supplies that I'm using in the description box, so don't worry if you don't know what I'm using or I don't mention it. You can just head on over there and see the supplies. But to make my life easier, I am just using the shape of my brush. This is a beautiful brush I got from Jackson's Art Supplies. It's one of their house brand collections, and I'll link you to the exact brush below. But you can see I'm not painting any shape. I'm just using the shape of the brush, and I'm playing a little bit with color. At the beginning I started with loading it with kind of orange and pink. And then I went on to do pink on the top and then more yellow orangey on the bottom. And that's pretty much it. Now I'm just playing around. You can kind of stop at any point here. I really enjoy this part, so I just keep on going, and I'm gonna make a frame. I love making frames. I feel that it adds to my page, and many times it gives it a more finished look. And now I'm just playing. I really enjoy this brush. It carries a lot of water, but you can also use the fine tip to create more accurate shapes. And I'm just playing. These dots here have a lot of wet paint in them, so I'm playing and also kind of letting some of that paint flow to whatever other shape I'm making. Again, you don't have to do this, but I feel this is a really kind of fun way to work on your sketching skills or brush holding skills. It's just kind of like warm up, muscle training, I would say. Feel more comfortable with your line work, your doodles, in kind of do this in a low risk, no worries way, because, you know, we will be adding things on top, and we can just play a little bit. So I'm going to actually work in the rest of the video on a different background I created. You'll see that in a sec, just because I did this in one sitting and I didn't have time to wait for everything to dry. But I'm guessing you will see this background in a future video because I absolutely love it and I want to finish this page. So step 1, background. Now we're going to move on to step 2, which is the focal point. Again, this time I'm taking the super easy way out, and I'm using this girl, and this is actually the backside of one of the swatching cards that came with the Jane Davenport Pastel Palette, and it's like very glossy type of paper, and it doesn't really work well for the pastels themselves, so I thought I would just use it for something else. And I colored this girl very simply with some Copics. The watercolors that I'm using here, what are they called? They are, I think some people call them the Pretty Excellent watercolors. They're from Amazon, but they have a different name, and if you want me to review them or swatch them for you, then please leave me a comment and I'll be happy to do so. They are quite fun, I have to say, and very affordable. So again, I'm using this girl here. I colored her a little bit. Obviously Jane's artwork is beautiful and it's making my job here very easy. But you can use, you know, your own work. You can use printables. You can use a cutout from a newspaper. You can use a flower stamp. You don't, you know, your focal point doesn't have to be a face or a person or anything. Just something more interesting that you like with some detail to it. And to make her feel more like a part of my background, I'm adding some shadows behind. Now the background here, you can see I created it exactly the same way as I did the yellow and pink one, only in simple black. The last thing we're going to add here are some details, and I feel this is, I don't want to say it's the most important step, but it's probably the one step that takes your art journal page from being okay to being more special, more interesting, and yeah, I guess mostly more interesting and finished to look at because there's a lot of things going on. Now, there's one more thing that I always pay attention to when I create my layouts, and that's contrast. But in this particular page, I kind of took some shortcuts that made getting contrast very easy, and that is just, you know, my color choices and also my background. It's interesting and yet very graphic and has a lot of contrast because of the white and black, but I'll definitely speak about that in future videos. So for now, let's just look at the details, and here I would say that's probably the more challenging part because you do have to kind of think more about it, and I admit I find this challenging. I'm not a person that enjoys doing a lot of like super detailed work. Sometimes I actually find it, you know, really challenging to sit down and put that focus and effort into something. Sometimes I don't see the value in it, but I definitely think that it's really important if you want to create pages that are interesting to look at, and detail is one of those things. Now, you don't need to add detail on everything. Actually, for the most part, for my style, I find it better not to do that. That again goes into the contrast bit. You want to have certain areas that have a lot of detail and then other areas that are very simple and don't have detail, and that really helps bring the viewer's eye to the focal point, to whatever you want them to look at. But yeah, it's it's always finding that balance. And of course, what's right for me could be too busy or not detailed enough for you. So you just have to play and see what you like. But in this case, I decided to add some detail with my white gel pen. And I'm just going to add just some lines, some line work, some doodles, and also some faces, because anytime I use anything by Jane Davenport, I always think about, you know, faces and figures and all those things that she's so amazing at. So this is actually a really good opportunity to practice in these things. It's kind of in the background. Whatever I'm drawing in those little black dots is not the first thing that someone will see when they look at this. They will go immediately to that pretty girl that I have there, or woman. And this really allows me to play, again, kind of practice my drawings, practice my line work, and not think too much about it. This is really also the stage that you can just go into it, and it's almost, you know, meditative. Is that the word? You don't have to really concentrate once you decide what you're doing. So, very important step. Don't skip it. Add detail, but keep it to certain areas, and try to have that detail in areas that make sense, you know, places that you already have things going on, so you can enhance them and not just distract your viewer from the focal point. So in my case, you know, the woman has a lot of detail in her face that Jane already did for me. And then I have my little dots in the background, so I can work on them. But I wouldn't add, in this case here, I wouldn't add more to the white background, because I feel that helps everything work. So I'm adding a date stamp, because I try to do that on every single layout that I make these days. And I think it's really fun when you look back, you know exactly when things were made. And now I'm just going to take a thin brush and add some lines with the same watercolor that I created the background with. And my last step will be to add some journaling. And this page is done. I love how it turned out. I absolutely love working in this Tomoe River Insert. I got mine from Etsy a while back, and it was kind of lying in my stash. I'm really making an effort to use things in my stash and not buy new things. That is partially working for me. But if you're familiar with this paper, it just has the most gorgeous texture once you get it wet. And if you're a tactile person and you like that crunchy paper, oh my God, you're in for a treat if you get this and use watercolor on it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Have a wonderful day. Bye.